Merry meet, it is Nina. You're watching Fairy Chamber channel. Continuing my series on Finnish pagan holidays, and today we are going to talk about Joulu, which is Finnish word for Christmas and Yule in both sense. And I have two trees made, as you can see. Well, these are trees in my room. This one only has branches in a bucket and some lights. And then I also have a British tree because it has colorful lights. And we are having a big tree to the living room as well. But it's not finished yet because we are going to decorate it together as a family. Yay! Well, I couldn't have Christmas in UK, or it will be very weird because they have the flickering lights in many places. I think that was really weird, and I think the bright lights, they suit better for this kind of place where it's very dark. So I'm back in Finland if someone didn't know that yet. So I talked to you about Joulu and also the history of Santa Claus and the pagan celebrations of Yule and winter solstice and Christmas and all that good stuff. So in Finland we celebrate Joulu in 24th of December. It's very much a borrowed holiday since Christmas is a Christian celebration. Before that, we in Finland people celebrated winter solstice, not as massive as we did celebrate Kekri, which is the Finnish Samain, in November, October. But winter solstice, it was this kind of a time to rest, you could say that. It was time to be with the family in many ways, so it has some associations to Finnish modern day Joulu celebration. And when Christianity arrived to Finland, and in the 16th century and in the 17th century, when the church fathers, they wanted people to stop celebrating Kekri and winter solstice, the talvipäivän tasaus, winter solstice, they introduced this new celebration, Joulu, the Christian version that came from Sweden, Jul. Ironically, both have Germanic pagan holiday names derived from Germanic word Jul. So they brought Joulu to Finland, and many of the Finnish pagans who did not want to celebrate the Christian version, Joulu, especially the night time between the 24th and the 25th of December, it became this loop for them to celebrate with their pagan traditions. Fucking English. So the night time between 24th and 25th of December, for ancient pagan Finns, it was this magical night to do spells, and when you did that, it was a very powerful thing to do. And people did lots of divination, lots of magic, lots of spells, and had encounters with spirits, usually with elves and all those spirits that lived in the farm and houses and stables. There's lots of elves in Finland and in Scandinavia overall. And it was really a great time to get rid of evil spirits, this magic night. And before that, before we had Christmas, we had Kekri celebration, and Kekri was massive thing in pagan Finland. It was usually celebrated in the first week of November, and it was the harvest festival. It was really big thing, and back then people announced that Kekri peace, which was peace for the people, peace for the land, peace for the animals as well, for a while. And when Christianity arrived to Finland, and that brought Joulu to people, since the 13th century in Finland there has been announcement for Christmas peace. and that is derived from the announcement of Kekri peace. This announcement is done in Turku in the I think it's 12 o'clock afternoon in during the day in 24th of December. I rarely watch that because it's just too Christian for me, but many people like it, so why not? And I think it's good to have peace, not just in Christmas but all the time. And anyway, that is one tradition that we have that is derived from pagan times, of course. And the Christmas peace, it lasts from 24th of December to Day of Nuutti, that is the 13th of January. And Day of Nuutti, that is something also derived from Sweden. And when it comes to the colors of Christmas, we have gold, which is this universal color symbol for the sun. We have silver, which is universal color symbol for the moon. We have red, which is also a universal color symbol for the goddess and blood and life. My tree is very Gryffindor. This one, at least. Then the green, it is very sacred color for druids, or was sacred color for druids because it's the color of everlasting life, and probably for ancient Finns as well, because we have lots of these trees that are green throughout the year. So the etymology of the word Christmas, of course, that is comes from the word Christmas. So it was the mess for Christ, or mess for the Christians. Then Finnish word Joulu, it's derived straight from the Swedish word jul, which means Christmas, but originally in Sweden it also was the celebration of Yule and Yule Mass, and also the fight between the Holy King and the Oak King, and also the mythology connected to Odin and the White Hunt, so it has very pagan origins. But what we have as a symbols in Finland and in Sweden for Christmas is olkipukki, which means it is a goat that is made from straws. It looks like this. A very common symbol of Christmas in Scandinavian countries, and it actually is a symbol of the sun and the harvest. Sun because it is made from the straws, and the harvest because it is made from the straws. And the goat, it is symbol of the horned god. The mythology behind Santa Claus, it might be derived from these goats or goat-like men, because within many pagan tradition and mythology there is these god figures who have antlers or who have horns. There's Cernunnos and Pan and Hathor in Egypt. I think Hathor was like a bull god. And even in Finland we have cave paintings that have these men-like figures who have horns or antlers, and also in Sami mythology there are stories of men that are half reindeers and half men, so it's not a new thing. And this idea of goat being a symbol of Christmas, it is also based on this idea that originally there was the celebration of the end of the harvest, and later on, like for example with Wiccans, they have this mythology where the god is born again, and the Wiccan god, he has horns. So in a way the mythology, it goes a circle. Quite a lot in Nordic countries and within Middle Europe we had these people dressed up as half animals, or quite often it was half goat. In Finland we had Kekri Pukki, who who with his companions came from house to house, and it was like a fertility symbol. They did songs and little plays, and usually they were quite provocative, and it was this kind of fertility act that they did. And this was like origin of the Finnish Santa Claus, but you can find this all over the Europe. And like Middle Europe, there's Krampus and all kinds of characters with horns that usually are like accompanied of Saint Nicholas or some kind of Santa Claus figure, Sinterklaas or something. And when Christians, they want to get rid of Joulu, when different countries in Middle Europe and Northern Europe were Christianized, they wanted to get rid of these mummers, or these groups that were acting to be these god-like figures, because they connected the horns to animals and to Satan and all kinds of evil stuff. So in Finnish, Santa Claus is joulupukki, and the direct translation would be the Christmas goat. And before that we had kekripukki, who was the kekri goat, and in there between we have nuuttipukki, who is the nuutti goat. And nuuttipukki was character before Santa Claus and after the kekripukki. And when kekripukki was something that went from house to house around Kekri, and usually it was a young man, and he was accompanied by other young men, and they did this silly plays and maybe were singing a little bit, and then they asked for booze and food for them. And it was believed to be good luck if people would give them food and something to drink. So when church wanted to ban Kekri celebration, and that slowly became Christmas celebration, people had nuuttipukki coming in the January 6th, going from house to house, and it was very similar to this kekripukki, and it was another pagan way to ensure the fertility of the land. And it had lots of Christian features also. The more we come closer to modern day, like usually nuuttipukki, it was like a poor group of poor students or something, so people felt sorry for them and gave them food. And in the 1950s, the nuuttipukki tradition, it slowly disappeared, and most of them were like little kids, and it was more like a trick-or-treating in America, but it slowly died, this tradition, and now we have Santa Claus, joulupukki, Christmas goat. Nuuttipukki arrived sometimes between January 6th and 13th of January, and they could swear and drunk and do tricks and tease people, so it was very provocative character as well. And they had furs, or usually like very thick furs, and animal masks and horns, and they had sticks and broomstick that they carried with them. But this tradition, it slowly died. So in Finland, both kekripukki and nuuttipukki, who were like part animal and part human, they have both have their effect on the character of Santa Claus and where he appears in Finland. Then also there is the story of Saint Nicholas, who has done huge impact on the way Europe, in other parts of Europe and all over the world, people see Santa Claus, and some people, they think that the name Santa Claus is derived from Saint Nicholas, which is probably true. So Saint Nicholas was a bishop he was a Greek bishop in Myra in 3rd and 4th centuries in what is now known as Turkey, and he was the saint of children and sailors, and he died in 6th of December, and this is when people celebrate him in Holland, and There he is known as Claus. And in some countries it is the Jesus child that gives gifts for children. And in some countries Santa Claus is known as Kris Kringle, in Germanic countries at least, and in some English-speaking countries as well, I think so. So in Finland we have the pagan name Joulupukki, the Christmas goat. And in the 19th century, that is when the whole Saint Nicholas kind of Santa Claus arrived to Finland and blended together to this Nuuttipukki character and made him quite nicer. And in the old times in Finland, in the 19th century, Joulupukki brought twigs for naughty children and gifts for good children. And you know, like in some countries he brings coal for naughty children and gifts for good children. In Finland he brought twigs. I think that is very connected to the idea of Nuuttipukki, because he had the broomsticks and sticks with him. And when it comes to otherwise of the different characters related to Finnish Christmas and Joulu, and overall in Scandinavia, there's lots of elves. In Finnish, elf is known as tonttu, and in Sweden as tomte, and in also as nisse, and nisse also in Norway and in Denmark. And I don't know the word in Iceland, maybe it's something similar. But in Finland and in Sweden, tonttus make the Christmas. And they're a really huge part of Finnish Christmas decorations and traditions and everything. And the elves in Scandinavian countries, they are really, really homemade, should I say that. And belief for the elves in all these countries, I think it is very much older than the belief for any gods or any goddesses. It comes from the shamanistic tradition, the belief for ancestors and belief for the nature being personified, and belief animism within buildings and within houses and stables and good protector spirits. And it is said that they are really connected to Christmas here in Finland and in Sweden and other Scandinavian countries, that because when Christianity arrived, that the elves were the one pagan thing that refused to leave people when Christianity arrived. So that's when people came up with this folklore fairy tale that elves, they went to move to Lapland to work with Santa Claus, the Father Christmas, because they did not want to be forgotten. And when the rest of the world became Christian and people forgot the old gods and goddesses, and paganism was forced to be forgotten, the elves did not want people to forget them, so that's why they moved to Lapland to work with Santa Claus. Oh, I guess that's one way to see it. So, they've been since the Santa Claus figure arrived to Finland, the elves have always been a big part of it, and also in Sweden and other Scandinavian countries since the 19th century. But elves, they have always been here. So that's something that people sometimes forget, but they have always been here. And the belief for elves, it's one of the oldest things that there is in Finnish paganism and in Scandinavian paganism, the belief for elves and spirits. So in the 19th century and in the 20th century, especially in the Scandinavian countries, somehow they really got into this character of Santa Claus. People really wanted to own the Joulupukki, the Father Christmas. Excuse me. And in 1927 there was this Finnish radio show where there was Uncle Marcus hosting it, and he told to the people that the Santa Claus, he lives in Korvatuntura, which is in the Lapland of Finland, and this started this kind of joulupukkimania in Finland, and he became this part of Finnish culture. You know, they say that joulupukki lives in many places. Some believe that he lives in South Pole or North Pole or Lapland of Sweden or in Alaska or I don't know, many places. But many people do seem to think that he lives in Finland. And also because joulupukki lives in Lapland, his animal is the reindeer, and he has all the reindeers as his symbol. And Finnish joulupukki, it has lots of American influence from Coca-Cola and all that stuff. Finnish Santa Claus dresses up in red, and he has a big white beard. He's not as old as elves, but he's quite old. And in Finland, joulupukki arrives in the evening of 24th of December, because that is the Finnish time when Finns celebrate Christmas. And in America and in the UK, Santa Claus arrives in the evening and leaves gifts 10, but in Finland and in Sweden at least, Santa comes inside and greets the children in the evening of 24th of December. If we go to the other neighbor country, there is Russia, and there is Ded Moroz, who is the Father Frost, and he is put by Troika, which is a sleigh that is put by 3 horses. And Ded Moroz, he arrives in New Year's Eve, because in Russia they follow the Orthodox calendar, so they don't really have Christmas like I have, but they have Ded Moroz. And Ded Moroz, he arrives with his grandchild Snegurotska, who is the snow fairy or snow girl, and they give gifts for children. And Ded Moroz, he arrives to many other Slavic countries in Europe as well. Then huge part of the gift giving in Europe, I think it comes from 2 major sources. I think big part, or the first one, is the Saturnalia, which was a Roman holiday that was celebrated to honor the god Saturn in way long ago in Roman Empire, and that habit spread because Roman Empire, it was very large and massive thing back in the days. And also I think big part comes from the stories of Odin and the winter solstice. And I think the Finnish way of celebrating winter solstice, it has some connection to the story of Odin as well. So the 13th century Edda poems, they tell about Odin and the way he was hunting, and Odin had a horse who had 8 legs, and it was believed that this horse could leap huge long distances at one time. And the last day of Wild Hunt was 25th of December, but 24th of December was the time when Odin brought gifts for children. So there are many countries where Christmas is celebrated on 24th of December. So Finland, obviously, also in Estonia, Sweden, Denmark, Argentina, Austria, Bulgaria, Colombia, Iceland, Norway, Faroe Islands, France, Germany, Hungary, Slovakia, Latvia, Lithuania, Luxembourg, Poland, Portugal, Romania, Uruguay, Switzerland, and Czech Republic. So in these countries, Christmas is celebrated on 24th of December, and in Spain and Latin American countries, usually in 6th of January, and in Italy, USA, UK, Ireland, and English Canada, and South Africa, and New Zealand, and in Australia, Christmas is celebrated on 25th of December. And in Slavic countries, they don't really have Christmas, but the similar party takes place in New Year when this Then in Slavic countries they don't really celebrate Christmas, but the similar holiday takes place in... Then in Slavic countries, the people who are Christians, when they celebrate Christmas, it usually is 19th of December, and otherwise it usually is Father Frost coming in the New Year bringing the gifts. Sweden, children, they left boots to chimney so that they would put carrots to these boots and they would leave them as gifts for this horse. And also in Iceland, children, they left boots to windows, to the window, whatever it is that you call it, and left gifts for the Odin and the horse, and Odin would leave gifts for them to the boots. So it is believed that they're putting the socks to the fireplace. That is something that is derived from this custom, and the gift giving, it also is derived from this custom, but also from Saint Nicholas, the story behind him, and also the Saturnalia, the celebration from ancient Rome. I think Saturnalia was the first one of these, but then all these pagan Christian traditions, they've been mixed up together, so that is how gift giving started in Christmas. Then in Sweden, Christmas gifts, they are delivered nowadays, and since the 19th century by the Joulutomte, the Christmas elf. And in Norway and Denmark, the gifts are delivered by Julnisse, the Christmas elf. And they also all have their own workshops where there are tiny Christmas elves working for them. And in Finland we have Joulupukki living in the Lapland, and he has lots of elves working with him as well. And yeah, just big mishmash of these different traditions. I think one of the most important tradition that has survived in Finland throughout all the times is the Christmas sauna, joulusauna. And some people go before in the morning so that they can get to church. They're usually Christians. And some people do it in the evening. And it's very, very long tradition to go to sauna, because traditionally in Finland, in the pagan times and even in Christian times, sauna was usually warmed up, especially when it was a big celebration. So we have juhannussauna, the midsummer sauna. Then people used to have kekrisauna. Now people don't really have that unless they are pagans, because majority of the Finns don't celebrate kekri anymore, because so many have forgotten it completely. So that kekri sauna has been switched into Christmas sauna, the joulusauna. So that is one of the traditions, and usually people go there in 24th of December. And I think in Finland, Christmas is really about being together with the family and like relaxation time to relax and not to worry about, not to stress about future and life. And also many people, they bring candles to the cemeteries around Christmas. I think this is something that is very old custom, all the way from kekri. And kekri, it was massive celebration, and in a way it was this whole time period from October to January. It was seen as time period when the spirits of the dead came to the earth, and people were very close to their ancestors and could communicate with their ancestors. And this is something that is very connected with the concept of the wild hunt, because it was also seen as the time when there was these night creatures and spirits in the world. And it's quite similar to Finnish talvipäivän tasaus, the winter solstice idea, and the idea of kekri. And also Germanic people, they put lots of thought to the idea of sun returning with the story of Holy King and the Oak King. And in Finland it wasn't that much big of a deal because it was so dark. If you go to Lapland, the sun doesn't come up at all, so it wasn't really that big thing. But then if you go more south, where it is more light, when people saw the sun in December, they did went to greet. Sometimes they went to the ice and greet the sun and welcome back the sun, even if it would be there in the sky only for a few minutes. So it really depends on the location of a person and the time period as well. And in Christmas time, the Christians, they usually go to church on 25th of December. I'm not Christian, so I don't really go to church. I might go to the cemetery if I feel like it. And then in Finland and in Sweden, the Santa Claus, the Father Christmas, Jultomte or Joulupukki, he comes inside the house in the evening usually and brings the gifts for the children. And when I was 5 or 6, I accidentally heard my parents ordering Santa Claus to our house, or called Santa to come. My sister was quite young then, so people always feel really sorry for me when they hear, oh, you must have been heartbroken to understand that Santa Claus didn't exist. But I don't think I even believed him, even when I heard my parents calling, because I never really believed the character of Santa Claus. I have always believed in elves, and like elves in Finnish mythology, because they are really enduring creatures, really fascinating. Because in Finnish mythology and overall in Scandinavian mythology and many different Finno-Ugrian tribes, people believed that there was elf living in every building. And usually elf was an ancestor of a family or first person who built that building, and the spirit left there. So I really always liked the story of elves, and I've always believed in elves in that sense. But then I never really believed in Santa Claus, because for me it's like a mixture of pagan and Christian stuff, and it's very confusing. But I've always believed in elves, so don't feel sorry for me about that. But that's what happened. I heard my parents calling Santa Claus to come. So no, I don't really have any traumas about that. But I thought it was really funny. Funny way to find out. And when it comes to Christmas, one of the traditions in Finland and in Sweden is that in Sweden people really want to watch the Kalle Ankas och Hans vänner önskar god jul in 24th of December, and in Finland we watch Sammo Sirkan joulutervehdys, which is the same program. It is the from all of us to all of you, the Disney Christmas, well, how do you call it, program. And if you don't know, Finnish people and Swedish people are absolutely nuts about Donald Duck. And if you watch my videos, I'm absolutely nuts about Disney, because I'm a Disney princess. So that's what Finnish people do and Swedish people do. Swedish people have done it longer than Finns, and they are more nuts about it, but still many Finns do that as well. And there's lots of animations that we watch in Finland in Christmas. In every year there is this program where kids go to Santa Claus and tell their Christmas wishes, and they sing little songs for him. It's quite cute, and it's really nice. I like that Finnish Christmas trees. They are quite simple, and also I think it's quite common in Scandinavia, because like when I was in the UK, there was lots of like flashing lights, and they were very colorful. That is my British Christmas tree, because there's the colorful lights, but I couldn't take flashing lights. It's too weird for me. But then like in the US, it's very dashy, or the Christmas trees, they are really dashy. They sparkle a lot. I think in Scandinavia it's more simple and more simplified, like mine here. But I think it's more fitting for the mentality of the people, I think so. And the bright colors because it's so dark here. And in Finland, after the Santa Claus phone call thing, there is the Snowman Animation. That is tradition. I think it's been tradition since the 80s, I think, something like that. The Raymond Briggs animation. The British viewers might know it. That's one Finnish Christmas tradition. I think they now made the sequel, The Snowman and the Snow Dog. Yeah, I think they show that. Show that one as well. And then there's the Finnish animation. I think it was Finnish-Hungarian animation. The Joulupukki ja Noitarumpu, the Santa Claus and the Magic Drum, based on the book of Mauri Kunnas. Yeah, I love Mauri Kunnas books. That's because I study illustration and he's like the king of the Finnish illustrators. Yay! So people watch lots of animations in Christmas, at least in Finland. I think they have their own habits in Sweden and other countries, of course, but I can only tell you about my own experiences. And my favorite Finnish Christmas carol is called Tonttu. It's about an elf who has insomnia. It's very melancholic. It's super melancholic, but then majority of the Finnish Christmas carols are quite melancholic unless they are like translated from songs from other countries. But I really like all the songs about elves because they are very pagan, because otherwise all the Christmas carols in Finland, they tend to be quite Christian, but if they are about elves, they tend to be very pagan. The 24th of December in Finland, it tends to be the feast day. It is the biggest celebration. That is when people have the Christmas dinner. Some people like ham or turkey or fish. It really depends on the family, and many people do have their own Christmas celebration like traditions. And some people, they go away from the city to the countryside or to their or to celebrate with the whole family. In my case, it's just the closest family. It's good for me because I think I would go crazy if there would be too many people. But people create their own traditions. So 24th of December, that is usually the biggest fest. There is the animations and the food and the gift giving in the evening. And well, I am gathering with a group of adults, so we are not having a Santa Claus, only on the one in the TV, but still we gather together, and it's really a family-oriented celebration pretty much in Finland and all over the world. And the 25th of December in Finland, it is very close to the old way, the way people celebrated talvipäivä, the winter solstice, that day to be quiet and together with the family or to relax. So 25th of December in these modern days is pretty much equal to that. And the 26th of December, that is tapaninpäivä, which is the Boxing Day in English, but in Finnish it is tapaninpäivä, and it, at least in the past, it used to be a day for people to go to visit and see other people and really like starting to prepare for the new year and all that. So that is tapaninpäivä. Tapaninpäivä is quite connected to horses. I think I will make another video about that. So when it comes to my pagan things, well, for me, the elves are definitely pagan. Tree is pagan. I think I'll make another video about the tree. The star in the top of the tree is pagan because for me, the Star of Bethlehem, it's a very controversial thing because, well, I'm not Christian and I don't really celebrate Christmas is a Christian holiday, but for me, star is a symbol. It reminds me of two of Finnish goddesses, the goddess Tähtitar, who is the goddess of stars, and Otavatar, who is the goddess of the constellation of Big Bear and the Small Bear, and Bear is one of my gods, so in that sense I also connect a star to paganism and see it as a pagan symbol. And overall Christmas itself, there's huge amount of symbols and pagan origins, and for me it's in many ways a very pagan holiday. So I hope you have very blessed Yule and winter solstice and Merry Christmas if you celebrate Christmas, or in a pagan or Christian sense, or whatever sense that you celebrate, or Hyvää joulua like we say in Finland, or God jul like they say in Sweden, and so on. So thank you for watching. I will see you on my next video. Bye!